no doubt that Evanescence had gained mainstream appeal. However, questions were being asked of their Christian roots and whether they even saw themselves as a Christian band.
In the United States, there's a large market for contemporary Christian. There's probably 3 radio stations in this market that stress contemporary Christian music. However, there's also that fringe Christian rock that's a little heavier than contemporary Christian. That's where Evanescence actually started.
At first, I think the band Evanescence pushed themselves off as a Christian rock band. Like country music, it's a little bit easier to get into the Christian music charts than it is to get into the pop charts.
I don't necessarily believe they want to be classified as a Christian band or even a Christian rock band for sales. There is no... By classifying them in that small an area, they're not going to sell very many records.
If you have a specific group, regardless if it's a church group or a baking club or whatever, those members that are in that group are going to support it, whether they're 100% behind them or not. They're going to support it because it is what it is.
If you're in a Christian band that puts a big label on you from not only from what an audience expects, but from what's kind of expected from the band as well.
When they first played, they played in church. So they had to disguise their music a little bit by, and I know, I'm not saying that they purposely disguise it, but it did have to have a little bit of a spiritual connotation, or at least you had to be able to take it that way. Just like if you sing Bridge Over Troubled Water, well, that can be about Christ, because he's a bridge. So, I mean, as long as you could make some connection, you could sing it in church. So they sang for the youth group.
All the band members had a Christian upbringing, although some were less keen to push their faith.
I think Ben has more leanings maybe toward that way than the secular style. I believe that as a group, Amy was probably more secular oriented and didn't want to be lumped into the, they're a power Christian group or a heavy rock Christian group, and that might have had something to do with some of their disagreement.
The kids in Evanescence, as long as I've known them, they've always had a definite set of religious beliefs, but that's not what their music was about. Sometimes their beliefs came across in their music, but their beliefs weren't the point.
What happened with Wind Up is that they saw that, and there was a little fracas between the members, Ben Moody at the time and Amy Lee, that they not be classified as Christian heavy rock, that they be more secular, simply because I think that just expanded their sales and their market.
Pressures from their Christian foundations were not the only problem. A grueling tour and promoting schedule was also upon them.
Before the album came out, they were living in L.A., sleeping in the morning. Life was pretty slow. But when this thing hits, bada bing, bada boom, you're on tour. Interviews in the morning, radio stations, television interviews, television shows, meet and greets with fans, sound checks, concert, meet and greet with fans after the concert. It's 2 in the morning, get on the bus, drive to a different town. At 6, get out of the bus, go in the hotel, sleep for another 4 hours, get a shower, go to the radio interview, boom. All of a sudden it's plomp, 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 like this. Well, Amy handled it pretty well.
But other members of the band were feeling the pressure.
I was the assistant manager at Guitar Center in Little Rock, and Ben Moody came in to buy some equipment from me. And then I was telling a friend of mine later, that he came in. He's just like, are you sure? He's supposed to be on tour right now in Europe. I was just like, no, he came in. And so about 2 weeks later, when I talked to John, he had told me that, just one night, they had, were all hanging out talking, kind of like a little bit of a instance happened, and next thing I knew, he was on a plane.
As Ben Moody was a little moody, and he had a lot of up and down swings, and some days you got the good Ben, and some days it was a little difficult, and so you had to handle it with kid gloves.
I know that Ben had split once before. I knew that Amy had left for about a week. I knew that Amy had a lot of moments during their tour where she couldn't sing for a week or so. I knew there was something possibly going on, and I thought it may be just this sudden rise of fame.
On the road and touring, Ben was unhappy. When you're touring, you're not creating. You're singing the same songs over and over again. You're almost like a trained monkey. Okay, here, put that in your mouth. Time to do the trick. Play that Bring Me to Life thing.
I've heard stories, about how, they would fight a lot, but they were always, best friends.
There was some little scene, and they had a little tension, and when the tension occurred, Ben said, "I'm going home."
Yeah, and that's just what seems so shocking, is because when they did break up, it was, a war of words, and it still is.
And I think this particular time, he thought that they would just fold up their tents, bring the circus.
In November 2003, Evanescence picked up 2 Grammys, one for Best New Artist and one for Best Hard Rock Single.
I was not surprised that they won the Grammy for Best New Artist. Their biggest competition was 50 Cent. I think in terms of the Grammy and the members of that Academy voting, I just think they were going to win out.
I already knew they were going to win. I just felt it in my bones, They were in the most popular movie of the year.
After the Grammy show, Rocky came into the store. I got him to sign a few symbols and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, Mr. Grammy Man, Mr. 2 Grammys, oh, it's just a thing here." And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's he's so laid back. Rocky's so laid back, it just really didn't, faze him. But I'm sure that, hell, I'd have been running naked all over my house, going, woo, 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 I got a Grammy,
I think the week or two before that, they'd won the Billboard Awards as Best New Artist, too. So you got kind of an idea that the buzz about them in Hollywood and in New York, too, was that they were going to get that award. I thought they had a shot at winning, Best Song. And I guess they did win Best Hard Rock Song.
I thought they made an incredible record. I thought they made a valid record. I think they've made a record that will linger. Stylistically, I think it will influence a whole new generation of musicians.
To me, I felt like they deserved it. I felt like as far as they've came in just a short amount of time, it's well deserved.
Fame has not gone to Amy's head, as her father recalls in a recent telephone call from Rome.
We probably talk about once a week now. The other night she called from Rome. She was sitting at a table overlooking the Vatican. And she called because she was eating a romantic dinner, and she wanted to include Sarah, her mother, in on it because it was so great. She knew her mom would love it. So she called on her cell phone and said, "Mom, I'm in Rome. I'm overlooking the Vatican. I'm going to the Sistine Chapel." She had just been to Notre Dame, wanted to share these things with Mom. So we stay in good contact. She's a good daughter.
With the band having already sold over 12 million records and gaining countless awards and accolades, the loss of Ben Moody might seem fatal. But with the exciting and talented new lineup and Amy's unique star quality, Evanescence can only go from strength to strength.
They blew up really quick. I think everyone was kind of shocked at how, they were in the top 10, music charts for, over a year.
The band is the happiest it's ever been. Ben is making movies. He's moved to California to pull that off.
I think the future for Evanescence is going to hold an enormous amount of pressure to deliver. There's always that enormous amount of pressure to deliver the sophomore record. In this case, you got to deliver it without your right-hand man.
Now that Ben Moody's left, their main songwriter, who really knows if they're going to, be as successful on their next CD as they are now.
When you're signed on to a major label, they want to see you at least cut 3 major CDs, 3 blockbusters, 3 platinum-selling albums.
Hell, they could put out their next album, man, with Rocky, farting on the snare, and probably sell about 4 million records, just him doing that.
It sounds like somebody scratching their hand on a blackboard for 60 minutes. I think it's going to sell.
I'm anxious to see where Amy Lee's career goes at this point. You know, it's one thing to be a songwriter, but it's another to be a front man.
I have a lot of confidence that Amy will come up with another fantastic record.
They started as a group.